Hello everyone, welcome back to the Caro Kann series. Today we're finishing it up by looking at all the miscellaneous variations, like beginning with the fantasy. And the point of the fantasy is you want to get a big pawn center and have nice piece play. But black is going to disturb this by playing e5, with the point being that if takes, now queen h4 check is lethal by weakening the king. Now this is available in king d2 has to be played, and simply like knight d7, regaining the pawn, you just have a great position. So they're not going to do that, obviously. But instead, they are 100% of the times going to play this, with the idea that they still want active pieces. Now bishop g4. And here after bishop c4, it is getting quite interesting, because if you just play knight f6, then as you can see, bishop f7, and you lose the piece. So here I have to play knight d7, so if take, you can take, and you defend the bishop for a second, then you just get away from here. So h3 is here the main move. We're still in theory here. Take, and now queen h4, g3, and now simply queen f6. Yeah, the idea is just simply that if takes, you're going to get your knight out and have a nice game. So they are probably going to castle. Takes, knight f6, c3, c5, and you're chipping at the center, and I mean you've equalized here. d5 just falls to knight e4. Yeah, so I mean there's also a different variation, like they can play c3 here, which is also a nice trying to establish their big pawn center. But here again you just go knight d7. This is the idea most of the time, and now it basically transposes to bishop c4. But here you can play b5, and if bishop b3, now you simply go bishop d6, and you actually have a nice position here. Like if they just castle, now knight f6, and you're actually catching up in development and have a good game. But if they try something like a4 here, you can simply play a3, because you're not going to take with the a pawn, you're going to take with the c pawn, and you actually have a very solid structure. You don't even need to do this. g4, bishop g6, and now this pawn is kind of weak. So let's say, I don't know, ab5, cb5, I would say cb5, no, ab5 is actually the best move. Rook a8, queen a8, and you actually have some active pieces here. You have a pawn in the center, and I mean d takes, and you just have a nice position. Queen a7 check, and you're just good. The theory is super simple, because white basically only has 2 lines against this e5 crap. So yeah, let's just continue by looking at the exchange variation. This is a more solid approach, but it can get kind of dicey here with the pan-off attack, for example. The pan-off is kind of the point that you want. The point is you want to get some active pieces, but knight f6 defense. And the idea of this is you want to fianchetto your bishop, and you let them take, and then you recapture with this knight. Yeah, so you can see knight c3, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, and now queen b3, putting some pressure here. But you can simply castle, and if takes, knight d7, bishop c4, knight b6, and you are getting this pawn back, and you have an active position. This bishop can now come out, and this is an isolated pawn. Yeah, I mean they can try queen b3 immediately and take, but it's just the same thing. You can castle, or you can play. Here you can actually play knight a6 with the idea of even though doubling your pawns, but you have some active play here on these files. Bishop f4, queen b6. You undouble your pawns, and you're just good here, because this bishop on e7 is actually going to get quite good. You're going to have a lot of space here. Maybe it's going to e6, and this pawn can get quite weak. So yeah, the pan-off isn't really much you have to worry about, but instead the normal exchange variations, not this, with like bishop d3 are quite strong. Here you can play like this, but honestly knight c6 is a good idea, and now queen to c7, with the sole idea of stopping this. Now they can't really force their way with knight e2, because now bishop g4. Obviously, if they go here, you just take like this. Bishop f4, you can simply take, and you have equalized. And if they go f3, thinking they are smart, simply bishop d7, and you don't actually mind this that much, because you do have e5. So yeah, this is kind of good for you actually. So what they are probably going to do then is play h3. This is the best move because now, as you can kind of see, this bishop isn't really finding a good home. Because it wants to go to g4 and kind of annoy you, and it can go to f5, and e6 is also bad because then this bishop is blocked. So you have to play e6, play bishop d6, knight e7, castle, and after something like bishop e3. I just want to show you kind of the plan here. Let's say this, and it's just an example, rook b8. And let's just say in a perfect world, like you're getting something like this, you know? And the idea here is that this pawn is kind of weak, and you can use this and these open files, and you have a nice position, even though this bishop is absolute garbage. You're obviously not going to get it that easily, but that's kind of the plan, because as you can see, this is a Carlsbad pawn structure, with the idea is here that Black wants to do this. This is kind of like in the Queen's Gambit, just with colors reversed. Yeah, I mean, the exchange variation, this variation is quite good. Yeah, I mean, if they try something like knight f3, not here, here, now you can simply go bishop g4, h3, bishop h5, and the idea is that white does not want to do this, because this bishop is strong, this bishop is ass, so you want to trade off this bishop. Yeah, but he can simply play e6 here. Yeah, like knight d2 and bishop d6. And I mean, you have a very active position, like knight f6, you're going to castle here, and you just have a great position, you're even a bit better here. And again, this queenside attack is a plan here, because of still this Carlsbad pawn structure. Yeah, I mean, the exchange variation is not really trying, but it's a very solid approach. And if white ever tries this, you're so happy with this position. I mean, the computer says it's close to equal, but it is not. Like knight g5 as before, if they play something like king g2, now already f6, this knight is now ass, and this knight is going here, and you're just way better because this rook is a monster. But yeah, let's look at another variation, which is the two knights variation, d5, knight c3. And you can take here, but what I like to do is play bishop g4, with the idea that I guarantee you most of your games are going to go like this, by the way. h3, take, knight f6. And now if e5, which is very common, now knight f to d7, d4, e6, bishop e3, c5. And basically like in the advanced variation, where you put the knight from e7 to c6 and put this knight here, and you just have a great position. Now, they don't have to play e5, obviously, they can play d3. But what you do here is you play d4, and the knight has to go to b1. And here you can simply play e5, and you have a big pawn center, and c5, knight c6, or knight d7, bishop d6, knight d7, castles, and you have a great position. It could look something like this. And now here, you actually have to play a quite critical move, which is h6 or bishop b4. Bishop b4 is the idea of a3, simply bishop a5, if b4, simply bishop to c7, guarding this pawn, and you have kind of induced a weakness here and you're trying to chip at it. Now these lines are nothing special here, pretty much easy theory. Now I don't necessarily have given you all the theory, you can do some more research yourself if you like to. But yeah, I mean, let's probably look at the most critical variation, which is this one. And what you're going to play here is you're going to play this thing here, the tartakower variation. Take, and here the main line is c3, bishop d6, bishop d3, castles, and queen to c2. And basically you play g6 here, and you play queen c7, and you go like this. Or you can play rook e8, knight e2, and now you go h5. And this is a bit more aggressive, but the basic plan of this opening is to go like this, the knight at f8. Like if they don't necessarily play the most challenged variation, like knight f3, bishop d6, bishop d3, castles, rook e8, h3, knight d7, c3, knight f8, queen c2, bishop e6. This is the ideal setup, so to say. And I mean, you have equalized here, so you're fine. But yeah, I mean, if they play the most critical variation, this is not that great for you. Like rook e8, and you get a position that looks like this, knight d7, and I mean, yeah. Like let's say knight g3 is here the best move. You take, and then you play something like knight b6. You put the knight on d5. If they try to stop you, they hang a pawn. So they have to play something like b3, stopping this maybe. So knight d5, and if they now try c4, now you have knight b4. So yeah, queen d2, and now like queen a5. This is quite complicated. So yeah. But one thing that you should note here is that bishop d6, like let's just say like a normal line, c3, check, say knight d7, queen c2, knight f8, bishop d5, h3, queen d7. Okay, if they go rook e1, now you have bishop h3, and this is a very normal sacrifice in the tartakower if this knight is hanging, because now they have to spend the tempo by guarding this, and now g5 going in, bishop d2, and now queen g4 check, king h1, queen h3, king g1, and now you finish him off by knight g6, going here, rook e8, rook e8. They have to give up their bishop, and you take with the h pawn. You go like this, and you have a crushing attack here. Black is lost, and you should take note of this, because this is a very fun sacrifice. Obviously, let's just give white another move. Obviously here, actually it would work. This also works here. Not because knight is hanging, but because knight can move. Like here it's actually better. I've completely misjudged this, but yeah, this. So you have to calculate a bit, but usually if the knight is not defended, it basically works every single time. And now the tartakower can be fun, but if they do play the most challenging line, then you're going to get some dicey positions. But I mean, this bishop d5, queen d7, queen c7, knight f8. I'm drawing a lot of arrows. I know I'm stupid, but yeah, this can get fun, definitely. And with that, we only have to look at one more variation, which is this, the hillbilly attack. Let's just quickly look at this, d5. The point here is, if they know what they're doing, then they're going to go here, and then go like here, which is stupid. I should just quickly go over this, so you know how to play against this. It's simply knight f6, knight c3, and you can simply go bishop g4, queen to c4, and now bishop to e6, and you just simply play like bishop f5 now, and you're hanging onto this pawn. Like you can actually sack here, the idea of knight d7, and if they take, you rook c8, and after something like this, and if they go, let's say queen to b4, a5, and you're getting a lot of tempi here of this. Actually you have e5, and this is threatened, and you have a great position here. But a lot of opponents which do this aren't playing the real hillbilly attack. They are just playing the stupid attack with bishop b5. Simply bishop d7. And again, this is the best move, but likely they're just going to take. Knight takes, maybe d4, you know, e6. You do the kind of typical exchange variation plans with like queen c7. And you have a nice position, knight f6. You can castle, play on the c file, have a great game. Yeah, I mean, that was it for today. Ending the Caro Kann series. Now, if you really want to play this in serious competitions, you should look over it again and do some self-analysis. But until then, see you next video.